All right, so we're back. We're going to do episode 4 and 5 of MobLand because you had skipped over episode 4 and went to 5. I had seen episode 4, but I hadn't seen episode 5. But I guess both of us have now caught up and we've seen both 4 and 5. So let's hop into, let's try and keep it somewhat in chronological order. I know it's going to be a little bit difficult because it'll bounce around some. But in episode 4, a number of different things happened. Primarily, Bella. So Harry helped out Bella by getting those recordings of her father that the French dude had, taken and was trying to use to whatever ends he had. And according to Bella, she's not done with this whole endeavor, so that's still an ongoing thing. Um, and along with that, there were a number of things that happened with Harry, but along with that, she basically told Harry that that he works for the Harrigans. Don't question me, all that type of stuff. That happened in a number of ways throughout this episode, and I don't know. It's interesting to me that he's still putting up with a lot of that type of stuff. They're stupid decisions, especially now that it's putting his family at risk. They blew up. Uh, what card? Oh, they blew up the Kevin and Bella's house and all that stuff. And then there were a couple of guys outside of Harry's house before, so now his wife and kid are on the ship or the little boat. But yeah, I mean that was one of the things that occurred. Any things in particular stick out to you in that episode?
All right, one, Harry himself gave us a clue as to why maybe he's putting up with it when he was talking to, I believe it was Bella that he was talking to, or maybe it was his wife, maybe it was Jan. I don't know, but he was talking about when Conrad starts being a nasty SOB, then he is a particularly evil somebody. And,
Yeah,
maybe Harry knows something that we don't, maybe he is like, well, I know just how bad this person can be. So, I'm not, I'm a bad guy relative to most of the cast, but that particular fellow, I don't hold a candle to. So I'll just continue to behave.
yeah, that's where it's
Uh,
kind of hard to tell, right? Because so that was a conversation. Yeah, Jan was telling him, Jan Harry's wife was telling him that Conrad had come by and basically threatened her because that was another thing that occurred, right? Is that Archie's body has been found by the police. They know it. According to Conrad, only he and Harry knew, what was going on with the body, even though that's not entirely true. Maeve has now planted the seed that it might be Harry, who is the snitch on this, even though Conrad really seems to not believe that. However, he does then become suspicious of those around Harry, including his wife. And so, he goes by and threatens the wife. She fortunately does tell Harry that Conrad had come by, and that's whenever he mentioned that, he's a nasty guy whenever he gets going. That being said, again, maybe there's something we don't know and they haven't shown us yet in this show, but based on what they've shown us, Harry's the one with all the cards here. He's their enforcer. He's the one doing all the dirty work. He's the one that seems to have the loyalty and command of the other underlings there, the other henchmen and everything. So it's just strange the way in which they treat Harry, particularly whenever he's it's going on during him cleaning up their messes. So I'm yeah, I guess we'll kind of see where that goes. But Maeve is definitely a problem, right? So we learned that she very clearly she concocted this plan to kill Tommy, having Eddie kill Tommy, and Eddie went along with it and everything. And yeah, so we did learn that, right? And
Uh,
why? Who knows? Again, in my opinion, it seems like Maeve is this woman who, started early with Conrad, was always kind of crazy, but never really wanted to ever settle down after making the money, getting the power. She just still wants to do all the gangster type stuff, as opposed to Conrad, who's wanting to build an empire, it would seem. And part of that means, stepping away from the stupid nonsense of what Maeve wants to do.
Now, I'm glad that you said that because that segues nicely into something I want to say. My respect for Conrad as the character in the movie and for building a criminal empire took a huge, huge nosedive. And you talk about Maeve wanting to continue to do stupid shit. How stupid do you have to be to make such overt sexual gestures toward your right hand man's woman? That whole thing with Jan was just uncalled for.
Yeah.
You can get by with a lot of stuff being a bad guy or having somebody's respect, this, that, or the other. But when you start pulling crap like that, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I respect Harry so much, because he doesn't mess around with Bella, right? Even though she gives him opportunities all the time, he doesn't. And there's Conrad, who's supposed to be the leader, who's supposed to be setting example, who supposedly wants to build this empire and whatnot, and he's willing to throw it away to play crotch games. I mean, come on, man. Just
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
That's
I thought that was a little bizarre too. I couldn't tell if, so it's funny. Remember, we also learned in that episode that Conrad had been sleeping with Bella before Bella and his son Kevin ever got married, right?
right.
And that whole scene with Jan, I couldn't tell, is he making, yes, an advance at her type of thing, or did they have a relationship in the past too? And perhaps Harry doesn't know that, right? Maybe Jan was one of Conrad's guys, and then maybe Jan was one of Conrad's girls, and when Maeve, when she moved up in the ranks, Maeve became jealous, whatever it is, he then introduced Jan to Harry. We don't know that, but I kind of thought it could go either way on that part, because it did seem a bit out of character for Conrad to do that, in the sense that we've never seen him do that before. Now we've obviously heard that he's a horn dog and everything. That's where we get Serafina, that's where Bella, all that type of stuff. So I'm curious if they had a past relationship.
I don't know, but she's not his female.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, that also leads to one of the other things that occurred, right? So after she had visited Jan, or Conrad had visited Jan, she called her new friend, the one from, I think, the first episode, from the therapy session or whatever, and lo and behold, as predicted, that's an undercover operative with the police. I don't know if I think it's a confidential informant. Don't know if she's actually an officer or what, but she's working with Fisk, the detective, on all of this. And yeah, that's going on. So, in a sense, Conrad's suspicion, he's on the right trail, but for the wrong reasons. So that's something else that's, starting to play out. And I guess kind of what really wrapped up that episode was Richie and Valjean and Harry and everything, to where Richie supposedly bought the idea that Valjean's the one who killed Tommy, although he has Harry kill Valjean, finish him off, and then makes the request for the Harrigans, all of the Harrigans, to attend Tommy's funeral. And that's where that episode had left off. I don't know if there's anything else, anything that jumped out at me from that last episode, from episode 4 to recount. But I guess it doesn't really matter because we can hop into, the continuation into episode 5, and if anything pops up that makes sense to, we can visit that. So from the very last episode, the most recent one, after the funeral's happening, the Harrigans are attending, all of that stuff that occurred. Was there anything in that episode that stuck out for you that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I'm thinking. I I don't know. I think the way he got the firearms into the Stevenson's house and the way they had such free reign to walk around was a bit much.
Which aspect? Because I thought that was getting the guns into the house. I mean, it made sense to me, right? If you've got photographic evidence of one of your henchmen sleeping with your wife, I'm pretty sure Richie Stevenson would kill that henchman.
Yeah, true enough. And that's why I'm not going to complain about it too much.
I thought it was an
When they
excessive
got
amount of
there, I
stuff.
can't imagine that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I will say that it was an excessive amount of weaponry that was brought in. There was, numerous handguns. There was a grenade in there along with other stuff. Like I thought that was a bit much. But
yeah, they had all this stuff. And the fact that once they got there, Richie didn't have anyone watching them. So they were able to wander around. Eddie wandered upstairs and found himself some coke to snort. And Harry wandered around out to the garage and got himself a box of weapons. And
well, but why would you? In a sense, I mean, granted, maybe not completely not watching them, but in Richie's mind, let's assume, because actually this does occur, right? In Richie's mind, he's not going to war with the Harrigans. He doesn't want to. As much as he wants ill will towards them and everything, he in his own mind, he's not planning anything. Whereas the Harrigans are all under the assumption there might be something going on, so they're behaving that way. Whereas if you're Richie Stevenson, it truly is just a wake. It truly is just a funeral. You're just having people over. And you're embarrassing the Harrigans to an extent, I guess. But outside of that, I had no ill will planned. So why would I be paying attention to you?
well, because that's the job of your security people.
No, to an extent, but see, what I found. I think what I found most strange about the whole idea is that this is in the middle of the day, and I mean, by the looks of it, there were hundreds of people there, or at least 100 people there. So what? In broad daylight, they're gonna kill the Harrigans at this house filled with lots of people who probably don't even know what necessarily business that all of them are in. I thought that was a bit odd. Like, what do you
Well,
think is
yeah,
going to go down
Harry brought
right
that
now?
up. He said, the cops are going to be there, the press is going to be there. I don't think that this is going to be a hit.
Yeah. Well, that's where I also found it strange that he was like getting. I mean, I guess if you had the guns, right, you're going to need it on you if something were to go down. But I just thought that was a bit weird. Like, why am I going to get the guns right now, as if something's going to go down? I don't know. Um, and Maeve, man, I'm so glad that they roofied her. I really thought
I
something
like
was
that.
going to go down. That was great. Like and clearly it's not their first time dealing with this nonsense, right? Um,
Yeah, and I like the way they had her propped on the couch with her feet up.
yeah.
Look, that was comedic. I like that.
Uh, I guess there's a few other things I wanted to talk about, but while we're on the subject, right? There's some more distrust being sown out there. Part of it, pardon me. Part of the distrust that's being sown is happening naturally, and because of Bella, right? So Harry's leaving Bella's apartment after getting those devices for the recordings. I think that was in episode 4, actually. Anyway, Kevin, sees him leaving and all that, says hi and whatnot. And then also Kevin, Bella says that, they're having a discussion in the car, and Bella's saying that, well, Harry thinks everything's going to be fine, so it'll be fine type of thing. And, trust stuff going on there. So it's kind of interesting that, although for the most part, it seems like Kevin's still holding pretty solid, in terms of his friendship with Harry there. I'm sure that's going to come to a point at some, here in the future episode, something's going to happen there. And I have a feeling, they've been showing Harry denying Bella. I hope that he continues that, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point when she's making an advance or something, maybe he's feeling down, has outs with his wife or whatever. That's when he makes a move. And then that's when Kevin also finds, that. So there could be a falling out there.
I remembered something that I wanted to bring up from episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
Why does everyone assume there's only one copy?
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, fortunately, Harry got at least, 2 of them.
He got 2 of them. But, if the guy made 3, it
could be more. I mean, part of it is I guess it depends on who you're dealing with, most criminals aren't all that bright to begin with. And this, I guess I'll give some credit in this series, the Frenchman doing this is not really his realm. It seems to be, maybe his first time or whatever. In any case, I don't think most people, are bright enough. Well, if I make at least a copy, that'll be good. But, also if anybody's ever watched a movie, well, you should probably make at least 2 because they're going to assume that you have a copy. So, you give them a dummy. But I don't know. I chalk it up to criminals being stupid.
Yeah, but the fact is you don't get to the level they're at by being stupid. You may drop from the level that they're at by being stupid, but you don't get there by being stupid.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know. We still don't really know what these French folks are, like what they're doing. We don't know what Bella's ultimate goal is, why she's introducing him to the father, and why they'd want to blackmail and do all. We don't know any of those ends. So they might be. I mean, from the looks of it or from the sounds of it, I think like they're probably more legitimate business type people. They do shady stuff, but they're legitimate business type people. They're not a crime family or anything like that. And this guy just took the opportunity to take advantage of Bella by, keeping the recordings and stuff. So, like I said, I feel like he's probably not in that criminal element, even thinking about it that far. Like, especially like the violence thing, right? Like, having an enforcer like Eddie show up and threaten your life and take back the stuff. He probably never even expected that. Because I don't know how much he knows about Bella in her current life as opposed to Bella and her father. And I did see, so we had discussed the way we found out we both had missed an episode. I saw, Brendan's proposal to Serafina about the gems, and we'll kind of see where that goes. What was it? They were rubies, and I don't know. We'll kind of see where that goes. I'd be curious how much money that's supposed to be worth. I'm guessing a few million, maybe.
Well, granted, there are a few very, very exceptionally rare pieces, but as far as gemstones that you can actually get, the most rare and expensive is a flawless ruby.
And how many did they say they had? Like 13 of them or 60 of them? I don't know.
I thought he said,
but
I don't know. I know it's between 2 and 8 carats. I thought he said 20 then.
Yeah, I know he said that he's got the supplier and the buyer.
And the product.
I feel like he said something else. And the product, yeah. So I guess all 3, yeah, supplier and product. So yeah, I don't know where that's gonna go. I'm sure it'll be. I could see that. Go ahead.
What I want to know is if he's such a screw up and doesn't have the capital and the wherewithal to make all this happen, how did he get trusted with that initial ruby?
Well, I think probably it's only his family who sees him that way, or at least for the most part, it's his family. They know all the screw ups. Maybe maybe whoever he's working with on, the other people, they don't know any of that.
I guess that's possible. Still,
I'd be curious if it plays out to where that whole plot ends up causing problems, and that might set up for the second season. Where, I mean, I don't know how many episodes this season's supposed to be, but I could see possibly like, here's a whole new crime element being introduced, and you're including actually, other foreign entities and stuff, and it could be a setup for a second season where Brendan and Serafina get involved in this gym trade, and that goes south, and now they're dealing with that. But as far as like, yeah, so as far as the funeral goes and all of that, yeah, we still had, there was a lot of tension going on with Maeve and Eddie. Eddie, even at the funeral, screwing up, causing problems.
well, then
And
Maeve having Stevenson's wife killed.
oh my god. Well, so yeah, that's how it ends, right? That's the big elephant in the room, is that Maeve feels slighted, and so literally after all the work that's been done to keep Eddie from being murdered, to keep a war from breaking out, all this type of stuff, she does that. And beyond that, after all that work and everything, and even though Richie Stevenson knows that his son, was killed most likely by Eddie and everything, even after all that, he says, I don't want a war. Basically, not bygones be bygones, but it's over. Basically, like this is it. So we're good, so to speak.
And
And then fucking Maeve does that.
do you recall who Maeve called?
What do you mean, who Maeve called?
To set the bomb.
Oh, Paul. Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about this. I don't know if you'd mentioned it in our last review, or if that was when we were talking and realized we had missed some episodes, because you had made the prediction that Paul might be the informant to the police about some of the goings on. So the fact that Archie got killed, where Archie's body is, all of that.
Yep. I think he might be the problem. I think he
He very well could be. Although I could see freaking Maeve being the one, doing this. She's, thinking she's wise and able to manipulate both the other crime families and the police and everything else. So, I don't know what move she's making or why. I could see, here's what it is. Maeve wants Archie gone because she wants to get involved in the fentanyl trade. And so, she plants the idea that he's a grass and he gets killed. Then she wants Harry gone. Where'd my train of thought go? She wants Harry out of the picture, so that. Oh man, I just had I had an idea as to why it would be. I think it had to do with Eddie too. I'll have to come back to it. Fuck. Um. Yeah, why would she want Archie? Archie found, get Harry out of the picture. Damn, dude. I should have started with that. I don't remember what it was, but it was a good reason as to why she wouldn't want Harry around either, and why she's trying to plant the idea that, he's also a grass, or, he's the one informing to the police. And so this would, try and get Conrad to get him out of the way too. Maybe it's so that, they can have a war. I don't know.
well, Conrad needs to make up his mind, because half the time he's adversarial with Maeve. He obviously disagrees with her on multiple fronts. Eddie and a bunch of other stuff. And then the next minute, he's listening to her like her word comes straight from his deity.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. They're married, I mean, and also, I don't know. I think the fact that, it's a relationship. I mean, I get it. I agree, but it's a relationship. She's been with him through, thick and thin, it would seem. And I don't know. I don't know. Maeve's definitely a troublemaker. I'll give her that. I don't really see what her end game is outside of just chaos. I guess Richie also did mention that Eddie's going to be fair game. If I ever see his little ass anywhere, he's dead basically. But I'm not going to actively come after him, type of thing.
I'll keep my eye out for him, but I'm not going to go looking for him. I don't know. Interesting to see
We
what the
also,
writers will pull out on this one.
yeah, we also learned that it was it was rape in the juvenile detention center by that guard, at least on Kevin. Don't know if it happened to Harry as well, but definitely on Kevin. And yeah, I don't know if I could see. I'll be curious to see if Kevin goes and kills that guard. That could be another mess for Harry to clean up. I don't know, but I could see it as an outlet for Kevin's anger after finding something out. Again, maybe he finds out that Bella is more interested in Harry, and then he his anger and goes and kills the guard, or he just has things weighing on his mind, and that's what escalates him to go and kill him. I don't know, but we did learn that.
I think something it's kind of a throwaway, but I believe it. As far as the characters go. Remember when he was talking to Archie and he said that Archie's uncle taught him how to fish, taught him how to do something, and then he pulled his pants down and tried to grab his cock. And later on, Archie asked him if he thought maybe that's the reason why his uncle immigrated. And he said, yeah, he immigrated to a pig farm in Norfolk. And he made the piggy noises. I think that, if you were going to do a cold case and go back and look, that he probably fed that uncle to the pigs.
Yeah. What episode was that in? Do you remember?
Had to be the first or second, because Archie died pretty early on.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch that. I don't remember that exact thing.
And it's funny because I know one of your favorite movies is Snatch. And you know what Bricktop said? Never trust a man what keeps a pig farm.
That's what this is directed by Guy Ritchie, who did Snatch, did The Gentleman, did Lock, Stock, all that. So I mean, he's my favorite director, and he apparently likes his pig farms. Dude, I really wish I could remember what the two things were with Maeve. I had a good theory as to why she'd be the one doing it. What do you think the response is going to be from the Stevenson? Well, especially now that Richie's lost everything now. He's no son and no wife.
Yeah. That can... I mean, when you get a man who has just nothing to lose, that's a dangerous opponent.
Well, I'm more curious. What do you think is going to be Conrad's response to Maeve?
I think he's going to let her slide like he always does.
What do you think plays out with Harry and I guess the Harrigans and his family, right? That was a topic of discussion there with Jan in the therapy type stuff, was that, Harry's got two families and she knows that his family, or, his actual family with Jan and his daughter, they come second.
Yeah, well,
you think that continues? Especially with this,
I think it's going to have to
of a piece.
Sake of the show and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in real life, what would she do unless she's willing to immigrate to, the U.S. or Canada or someplace else that she hopes is outside of Conrad's reach. What do you do?
I don't know. I mean, well, what she could do or what Harry could do, just kill the Harrigans, or be done
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
but I've been
Find
saying that for
something.
Harry since episode 2.
Yeah. Well, and that's the question, it's like, how much more are you going to put up with, especially when all the work that you put in, all the deal making that was done, all the, behind the scenes, people getting killed, all this, the threats to your family, so on and so forth. And then this bitch goes out and starts a war, right? All because, she was called old, basically, old and ugly. Conrad wouldn't want to sleep with you type of thing. She gets slighted. And and you blow her up for that. Like, my God. I don't know.
Yeah, well, at that point, she was going to do something anyway. That just gave her the flimsy excuse to do what she was going to do ultimately.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah, she was about to. Yeah, she was about to do it there at the funeral. Had she not been roofied, she was ready to start some shit there. In fact, I think she had even made she had made the like a nod or something to Eddie, basically to get something started. Because Eddie then walks and bumps into the guy and starts a little fight there. And speaking of, I didn't mention it before, but that was another thing that occurred. Still don't know exactly how it's played out, but it seems Maeve had made some type of subtextual threat to Harry, sent some type of message because Kevin and Harry were together and Maeve told Kevin, tell Harry I said hi, tell Harry Maeve said hi, and Kevin does. And clearly Harry was able to interpret whatever the hell that meant, but we don't know yet as an audience what that meant.
That's because I think Harry's smart enough as a character to understand Maeve is unhinged.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's correct. I'm sure this is something that he's either heard before or what have you. So I don't know. We'll see where that plays out. But
And
I'm looking forward to the next episode.
What's Paul doing? Just listening to her instead of making sure that the orders are
Yeah,
cleared
that
with
was.
Conrad.
Well, you know what though? Given what we've seen so far, he's probably in a position where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, right? Doesn't listen to Maeve. Maeve then either kills him, literally probably would just walk out and shoot him or something. Or, he gets berated by Conrad or something like that for not listening to her. Now he's going to get berated for listening to her. It's, that's part of the problem too. Whenever you've got, seemingly two authorities on something, it's like, no, there needs to be one. And that needs to be it. But when Maeve's allowed to be calling the shots as well, yeah, we've got a problem.
Yep, you need a clear chain of command.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the next episode and kind of seeing how some of this plays out. Like I said, I think the thing I'm most looking forward to actually is to see what the response is to Maeve doing the bombing. I'm curious what Richie will do as well, but that seems to be a bit more obvious. I'm curious to see what plays out here with Maeve and everything that happens with that. So until next time.